Welcome back to Scale Me Down. I'm excited to introduce this little Tiger Moth kit from the Tony Ray range of Aero Models, as this one, when it's finished, should be below 250 grams in weight, which means we can fly it anywhere without restriction. Please like and subscribe to support the channel. This kit was supplied by Model Shop Leeds for review, and I'll leave a link in the description below as to where you can get yours. In this short series, we're going to build, fly and review this little Tiger Moth kit, and I can't wait to get started. So let's get the box open. This is a comprehensive kit, so in the box you'll find everything you need except covering, radio gear and glues and things. It was very well packed, and the first thing that hits you is this lovely 3D printed cowling. Laser cutting, as with all Tony Ray kits, is excellent, with identifying numbers etched onto each part. Wood selection seems very good across the ply, balsa, and I think these wing spars are Polonia. A clearly printed, folded plan is supplied, but the instructions are electronic, so I downloaded them to my iPad. For this build, we'll need some simple tools, including a sharp knife and replacement blades, a sanding block and other various grades of sandpaper, a drill, some clamps, and one or two other hand tools. I mainly use PVA for the build, along with this Super Fatic from Deluxe Materials. I got some CA tips for accurate application. It's lighter, less brittle, and gives you more working time than CA does. The most important tool is the building board itself, which must be completely flat. I got my 18mm melamine faced chipboard from the reuse section in IKEA. And then I stuck down a piece of 6mm Depron using contact spray adhesive so I can push the pins in. If you're prepared to cut the plan, you could make a convenient board to build the model from the comfort of your dining room or even on your knee. I've left this section of the board free of Depron for cutting on, as you'll see later. And now I'm going to protect the plan using cling film, although the clear backing from film covering works well too. Let's identify all the parts required for step 1, cutting through the little tabs that hold them into their sheets with a sharp knife over the bare section of board. I then sand away the resulting bumps. I lay the parts out symmetrically to ensure a left hand and a right hand fuselage side. I'm using PVA glue for a strong bond with these doublers and to allow sufficient time for accurate alignment, weighting the parts down flat until the glue cures. I marked the centre lines on the fuselage formers. I'm once again assembling these parts with PVA glue, and it's very important to dry fit every component. I had to sand this part down slightly, for example, as it was too thick to fit the slots. I use these engineering blocks to ensure everything goes together square and true. Now I could add the other fuselage side, and without any glue, all the formers. There isn't a top view of the fuselage on the plan to keep it straight, so I aligned the centre marks with this line I drew. The Super Fatic is then wicked into all the joints. Once cured, we can add all the remaining parts, including the sheeting, which is also laser cut. Before reaching for your CA cyano glue, try this. Glue the bottom edge and let it set. Then wet the outside with water until it bends naturally to shape. Run the Super Fatic around the seams inside and it just takes a few moments to grip. The laser cut sheeting fit beautifully, but there's just these 4 holes I'll need to move that didn't line up with the underlying structure. I stiffened the servo tray with some scrap wood before marking out and drilling with a pin vise to fit the servos. The push rods are 1mm carbon, but there's a mistake in the instructions. You need to cut them to 38 centimeters. I wish I'd have done all this before I even fitted the tray. And whilst we're on with fitting the electronics, let's fit this cute little brushless motor. There's 2 options of motor with corresponding slots in the motor mount. I bolted on the motor before assembly and reinforced the corners with some hard balsa. Stuck it all on with epoxy. This wing centre section is a good example of how the whole kit fits together. The parts fit so well that they just press together. Then I simply wick in the superphatic glue afterwards. Even the sheeting is laser cut and fits perfectly. Now I can move on to the cabanes, which are made of G10 epoxy board. I used a Dremel to cut these from their carrier sheets. These fix into place with little screws, but there's nothing to ensure the incidence of the upper wing. This drawing is included at the end of the instructions, and I suppose you could overlay the structure directly onto the iPad screen. But I scaled and printed mine from the computer. It would have been easier though if this section of the drawing had have been included on the plans. To complete the fuselage, there's just the landing gear, which is bent up from the ample stock of supplied wire over this drawing. The parts are meant to be joined with these little aluminium fittings. However, I just used them as a crimp to hold the bits while I bound them with some copper wire and solder. I'm thoroughly enjoying the build so far, and as with all Tony's designs, the laser cutting and the fit and finish of the parts is excellent. There's only been a couple of irritations along the way. Tony's builds are quite complicated as there's many components, and it's essential that you dry fit everything without glue, and that also you identify in detail which parts and which way round each part is from the instructions. And on that note, I'd strongly recommend that you use a large screen such as a tablet or laptop computer, as I think it would be very difficult or almost impossible to build this using just a phone. Tony's designs are getting easier to build, thanks in part to the Facebook Tony Ray Builders group, as his instructions do assume you know the basics of how to put a model aeroplane together. Join us in part 2, where we'll build all the flying surfaces, cover the model and prepare it for its first flight. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you here next time for part 2.